He and I were sitting in the back drinking beer at one
Hey,
point.
shouldn't you be in the center?
No.
You're the guy.
No.
You're the guy.
No.
That's gonna look like I'm the guy.
You are the guy.
I'm not the guy.
You're the only one still
Never
playing
was
music
the guy.
professionally.
Well, that's
For what that's worth.
No, you have a real job is the point.
Hey everybody, Kirk here, and on today's episode of
So that happened.
I'll be joined by the Antics. Just so you know, you've been rolling this entire time.
that's
That's
good.
all right.
Hi, it's Pat, and I played guitar. I still do.
I'm John. I played keyboards, and I still do.
Ron Benny, vocals.
Do you still play vocals?
You know what? We have karaoke if you want me to bust it out.
Right on.
Yeah,
We might have to go there.
we might. You know, the day is young.
So, I'm here with the Antics, and already we've had such a great time, and we haven't even started. Tell me a little bit, Ron, we talked on the phone, but you guys go over how you guys even met. How did you guys decide to put together a band?
Yeah, it's a good question. So at the time, John, myself, and our bass player Steve, who's not here, we worked at UA Sunrise Cinemas in Citrus Heights.
Is it still there?
No.
Is it gone?
It's still there, I think. I don't know. Who knows?
gone.
It's been a while. But we all worked there as teenagers, and we had one of our coworkers was going to have a New Year's Eve party, and she wanted to have a live band. And so Steve played bass and guitar, but he couldn't play both. John played keyboards. I pretended to sing in choirs, and so we.
You sang choir.
Yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah. And
cute.
I
Did you know that?
right?
No.
Whole long previous
Yeah,
career.
yeah.
Anyhow, we needed a drummer and we needed a guitarist. And my best friend in high school at the time was Brent, who played drums. And so I told Brent, hey, we got a show coming up if you want to play. And he said, yeah, I know Pat across the street, who was Brent's neighbor, a year younger. He plays guitar. And so that's how it started. We all gathered at my house in literally the garage that had been converted into a bedroom. And that became our rehearsal studio for the next, 3-4 years. And the rest was history. So,
I have a totally different memory.
yeah.
I don't know. We're not supposed to say that.
No, so is it?
Because I remember
It really started in Brent's
Yes, Brent's
bedroom.
bedroom. Because I remember we were working at the theater, and you brought in this tape of the band, and I remember it.
Well, it wasn't a band.
No. It was a thing, and you guys were doing floating feces.
Yeah.
Yes, which later became whatever it became, because your mom
We're
didn't
a
like
punk
floating
band.
feces.
Yeah, that had left a mark.
What song would that become? That song, I thought it sounded really good, specifically because of your power chords. When you muffle the bridge, I
Yeah.
thought, oh, that's so cool. And so you guys tried to get me to play keys. I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it.
You had
We had a tiny little Casio.
No, I didn't
You
have
had the
that.
Casio
No, I
magic
didn't have. No, that was Brent's.
Yeah, it was
That was,
Brent.
I had nothing.
You played
Yeah.
Brent's
You guys
Casio
knew I
Magic
played
Wand.
piano growing up.
All right,
and I'm
so you
like,
weren't-
and I was super shy.
You did work at the theater.
I did. I was pretty good at that actually. And I was super shy. And you guys, oh, you should do it. So I go to the first rehearsal. I'm terrified. And you had the Casio. And so I just started playing the Casio.
It was
and then
literally like this big.
tiny little thing.
Yeah.
and then eventually I got my first keyboard, which we'd set on your dad's speakers. I
Moog.
didn't have a keyboard
It
stand.
was a movie.
Yeah, it was a Moog Opus 3. I still
Yeah,
have it.
yeah.
But we'd take your dad's speakers.
Yeah.
And that was my stand.
Yeah.
And the first game you play with the features, Johnny probably walks in and he sees the speakers. He's like, what the hell is this? That was fun. Anyway, that's my memories how it
Yeah,
started.
so that was your
Because
your keyboard stand
I was the last guy
for
to
a
come
long
in
time.
For the speakers.
And I think my brother was the one who schlepped it every show too.
Carry speakers.
Yeah. They were tall, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Tower speakers.
Yeah,
yeah.
stereo
Like,
Yeah. No, I remember that now.
Moving to your house, that was moving up in the world. And
Yeah.
We practiced twice a week for.
That was quite
We did.
Yeah.
And we
Quite
did it.
No, we
religiously.
didn't know any different. We just got together at least twice a week, and then we
played
started
for
playing
hours.
Yeah.
We did, and wrote music, but then we started playing shows, and sometimes there'd be hardly anybody there. We just treated that as another warm up, another practice, and so we practiced really we played together as a group 4 times a week, often, and,
A lot, yeah.
and that went on.
Sometimes
for
we got
ever.
paid.
Sometimes we get paid. Yeah.
but it would always last. 2,000 miles from my heart. It turned cold oh so fast. 2,000 miles from my heart. So you found some other guy. 2,000 miles from my heart. Was all of your lover.
So what was your guys' influences in the beginning? What kind of music were you listening to? And were you purposefully writing in that style, or did something new come out?
Oingo Boingo was a big one back then.
For me,
because,
yeah.
and we were trying to sort of something, and then we would Clash and Roxy Music.
I was heavily influenced by all the punk bands of the early 80s.
Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark for me.
But-
The Vapors.
But definitely the Vapors.
Yeah.
All of that. I mean, all of really the one-hit wonders of the early '80s. All of the new, as they call it, new wave. But that new style of music that was just hitting everybody. A little more on the techno side. I think we started off definitely on the punk because we were horrible, and it's easier to play horrible if you're punk. And have people actually show up. But then we started kind of getting good, practicing 3 or 4 times a week. You
Can't help but get
you tend
good.
to improve a little. And so then then John bought a real keyboard, and that's really when our sound changed.
Eventually got a stand.
Oberheim.
later.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, well, first
you ended
we
up
moved-
having a whole Curtis Mick
Oh, yeah, the whole thing, yeah.
rack.
I had an Oberheim LBXA, which I still have. And
Oh, you do?
Yeah, and it's worth
Oh,
some
wow.
cash now. I got
I
it.
bet.
There you go.
Yeah.
I remember that
So-
was a little. You had to send it back a few times to get repaired.
I drove
Oh,
it
that's
down.
right.
I drove it down to Santa Monica because and had spent time down there to have it repaired and bring it back. Yeah, I bought a Prophet 5 first. And I had it for like 3 days. It was all jacked up. I got it Skips. Is Skip still there?
Yeah.
They just moved
They
into a
moved,
new
they just moved.
building.
They did. All right. Well, I
Yeah.
bought it from them, and it was like going haywire. And I took it back, and he's like,
That
"Oh,"
figures.
he tried to get me to keep it. And then I went to remember the guy that was at was it K&K Music?
Came
Yeah.
There was that guy that came to one of our shows. He had long hair.
Lynn.
Yeah.
Lynn. And and he was so pissed when he found out I bought the Prophet because he was trying. I was going there all the time. He was trying to get me to buy the Silverheim. Well, eventually I bought the Prophet. He's like, "What did you do?" And so I returned the Prophet, bought the
Bought the
OBXA. Yeah.
And where was your favorite places to play?
Yeah, I'll take that. We were chatting about it a little bit earlier, trying to jog our old memories. But so after Stacy's party, and we started practicing a little bit, and I think we had all of 4 or 5 songs, enough to play a show. Not really, but we thought so. We made a demo tape. I started shopping that around. I literally, my friend Vicky and I and Brent would go door to door to about every club, every CD club, every big club, didn't matter. And if anybody would listen, we handed them a tape and then a funny bio that made no sense. But we started getting calls. And also, they were reminding me that one of the promoters, Sonny, happened to cut Pat and Brent's hair, and she found out that we're in a band, and so I think our first opportunity came from her, and that was at Fat Fonzie's. We
Which
opened
was
up,
on Fulton Avenue.
Fulton Avenue, and we were opening for the Teddy Boys, who has some characters, awesome people in that band. So that was our first show, and it was packed. I remember my mom and dad were in the audience. They sat
were my
they
parents.
sat at the little table, and my mom wore a dress, and she had this big old silly flower on it. Yeah, all dolled up like she was going to some
My parents were dancing.
yeah,
They
your parents
always
were
got it.
always hip, So my parents were great, but they were certainly out of place there. And then we came up, and I think we actually sang Floating Pieces, and a classic like I Don't Have Herpes.
So that night, before we played, I remember there was a guy sitting at the bar, and he took a glass and he ate it. He actually
You took a bite out of the glass.
took a bite out of the glass.
Where is
and
Slate?
like
that night?
swallowed it. Yes.
Oh, that's smart. That's good.
So we played our first show.
Rock
And we
and
actually
roll.
packed the place. I mean, there was wall-to-wall people in there.
We had a
And
lot of friends,
most
loyal friends.
Most
yeah.
of them family and co-students at Del Campo High School.
Yeah, they allowed underage people in there. So.
All of them that shouldn't have been there because it was a bar.
How did we get away with that?
Well, I
Hey,
think they had.
bars. and
Nobody
we had-
enforced it. back
They didn't.
then.
In fact, we got drink tickets half the time, and we were all,
I was 16.
You was 16, and the oldest Steve was 18.
They had kids working in the kitchen, right? The little kids.
I don't remember that, but they might have been trafficking them. But so we played the show, and we got a good reputation after that. So we got invited to play another show, and then that just kind of kept steamrolling. One of them, you talked about Spanky's. You didn't remember, but we played one of the shows shortly there. Harry's Bar and Grill. Club Can't Tell. No, what's the Club Can't Tell? It wasn't open yet, but Galactica 2000.
yeah.
We had our first show. The big show was opening for the Bengals. And we really didn't know what the heck we were doing, but
Well, they were nobody.
But they had an article about
they
them
had a
in the Rolling
record,
Stone.
and
They had an
they
EP,
had they
four-song
were up
EP.
and coming, right? And
They were still kind of a punk band, though.
well, I remember we went out. So
wasn't
Dave gave us a bunch of tickets to go sell, and we sold them.
Go
And
do something useful.
so right.
After you mow my lawn.
He had an English accent,
He's
and,
an English guy, yeah.
and
Well,
he
you gotta respect an English guy, right?
well, of course we did. What else are you gonna do? I think we had an English accent at the time too.
Why do you guys have British accents?
Hello, who's this geezer?
Totally.
I was like,
Hey, it was a very new wave.
where's
I blame Dave. But so anyway, wrap it back. We show up with a stack of like 90 sold tickets and the money.
But he's panicking because nobody bought tickets for the show.
That's right. And so here's this, ended up being a mega band, but they're coming through as a one-hit wonder at the time. They had
Not
Mary
a
Street.
one-hit wonder,
Well, they had Mary Street.
There was no, they had no.
But they weren't polished up by Prince yet. So we show up at the door with this stack of money, and he about shit himself. He starts saying, "Oh my God, you guys are great!" And so I think that was one of the main reasons why we started getting all of the calls for the bigger shows when they came through town after that.
There was a band in between us and the Bengals. It was like Inner Circle or something. The guy owned a record store called Esoteric Records. After the show, Dave, we walk up to Dave, and Dave says, "Well, I'm sorry, lads, I don't have any money.
Don't have any money to pay you."
I'm gonna pay you."
Yeah.
And the guy from the other band goes, "Come on, they saved your ass." And so he gave us 35.
Yeah, it was $35 to open for the Bengals, and we brought all the money for the show there. Yeah, we were really good businessmen, but so that happened.
So that happened. So question, were you guys like this back then?
I think so.
Were you
Yeah.
guys as energetic as you are right now back then in those days?
Well, yeah.
I would say.
So John had a comment earlier this afternoon on those, and it kind of ties into your previous question. So we evolved, playing now real shows, and we kind of polished our stage show. We polished up everything. The more you play, the better you get, and that evolved into bigger and better shows. We still didn't make any money, but we had some great shows, and we had a huge audience. We would pack the place every time we played, and we all kind of scratched our head as to why, but they were all probably 70-80% underage girls.
Yeah.
And then we got
were
the
pretty
reputation
boys.
from for other people out there, other boys, that when the Antics are playing, there's going to be a packed house full of young girls.
Yeah, like who wouldn't want to be there?
And so then they just started steamrolling from there. We had just a energy, and we still do. When we get together, you can't turn the off switch. And this one's for you. And say, no, do that again. And what was it? No, that's great. Do it again.
the place that was the best during that period was Club Cantel.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they had
Well,
everybody.
after they moved out, after Bo stopped doing the shows at Galactic 2000, which was phenomenal, it got that venue and got it polished up. And he
We
was
used to call it Club Can't Open because they were working on it for so long. But
try opening up a club and getting a liquor license and all of the.
no, but when that place opened, it was the right time and the right place, and they had amazing bands through there.
Yeah,
you know.
they did. And it was the right time for us as well, because we were actually okay at the time. We had a good following and we sounded pretty good.
They say that he's shy. They say that he's sweet. But he's a real nice guy. So we'll find a girl for poor little Johnny to be. Johnny needs a girl. Johnny needs a girl. Johnny needs a girl.
There was this keyboard part, just repeating part, dun, 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 dun. And then you had the idea, Pat, to go, dun, 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 and then we threw the bass line, and then boom. It was actually, looking back on it, it's actually kind of a sophisticated song, because there's
I
multiple
know,
things
I
happening at the
actually
same time.
liked that guitar part a lot.
Yeah.
That was, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's no floating pieces, but I mean, it's,
yeah,
Well, we went a long way from floating feces.
yeah.
So what was the premise behind Floating Feces?
a poem. A poem. That's it. It was just trying to be punk. From the crack into the bowl comes that feces from that hole in the water with a splash, floating with the tissue trash. It's the floating, floating, floating,
Yeah.
floating, 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 floating,
Right.
floating feces.
Yeah, it was inspired by Dylan Thomas, I think.
It might have been. Might have been. Yeah. Big fan.
Yeah.
And we had a
It's
good
later in our
we had a live show that had this great energy. As soon as we hit the first song goes out, everybody would just pack the dance floor and be bouncing, and it was always fun, always energy. And I have to throw a public thank you to Bo Richards and Carol. They were so good to us. They didn't have to bring us in and have us open up for these bands or give us our own headliners, and they were great to us. Maybe not paying us well, but they were great as far as giving us opportunity to showcase our band, and
Yeah,
sure loved
I
playing that
mean,
place.
That was, to me, that was like the pinnacle of all the places that we played.
And on stage and recording a little bit different. The one that probably was popular both was 2,000 Miles.
Yeah.
I'd probably put that at the top. We had one of our later songs that we wrote, Infatuated. That sounded good on record, but maybe not as much live.
Yes, it's true. Infatuated with you. Yes, it's true. Infatuated with you. I really like the way you look. I said, girl, you've got me hooked on you.
We had a gosh.
Party of Paradise.
Well, Party of Paradise had probably the most energy. That was a fun song, man. When that would go, everybody was jumping around.
Wake up at the break of the sun. Wake up, we're gonna have some fun. It's a party that we've all planned. It's a party down on the sand.
Fun for the whole family.
So where did you guys end up doing some of your recording? Was it any studios here in Sacramento?
Charlie, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Charlie
So,
Peacock.
we were talking about that earlier as well. Yeah, Charlie he played at the time too. He played a lot of shows. In fact, he opened up for Oingo Boingo at a show that we went to go see. And he was great. He got a lot of the opening shows and a lot of headliners as well at the time. And he was kind of, very high energy pop that kind of morphed into later into kind of that new wave sound at the time. He's totally in a different world now, but at the time, that's kind of what he was doing. And he listened to us and would show up at a few of our gigs, and then he approached me one time and said, "Hey, would you guys be interested in doing some recording? I like your sound, like your energy, and would like to have you come into the studio with me." And I didn't recognize him or really know who he was, and like, "Oh, you're Charlie Peacock, of course, I know who you are." And so he came out to my parents' house where we were practicing at the time, and we said, "What do you got?" And so we played a song, "Socially Unacceptable," to him, and he just kind of looked at us.
What is reality? What is truth? Lost in society, the search is for my youth. No trust, no help, no friends, no wealth, no wrong, no right, no sex, no life.
Like, how does he say it?
He goes, "Yeah, I don't get it. It's just a bad rhyme." And so he says, "Write something else, and then send it to me and come on in." And
We were working on 2000.
so we had halfway through on 2,000 Miles, and it was a pretty good song, and so we wrote another one, Infatuated, and we all liked it at the time, and so we brought him those two songs, and he liked them both, and so he brought us in the studio, set it all up, and tweaked a couple little things here and there, but then he set us up with Mike Fox, and Mike produced the recordings for us, and those got played on the air at KDVS times. They played it on the air when we went down and did a radio interview in Fallbrook. They played those songs.
He was
they got
Charlie,
airplay.
though, an outstanding guy. I mean,
Yeah.
incredibly nice guy.
Oh my gosh, he was very just to take us under his wing. Didn't charge us anything. Just he wanted to help take us to the next step. Unfortunately, I don't think we wanted to take ourselves to a next step. We weren't capable. But it was. That was where we had our real recordings. We never did, press any vinyl out of it, but it did get some airplay.
Do you guys remember? I have a memory of the first night we met him. My memory is we were Beaverbrooks.
We were
playing a show, and there's this guy standing next to the stage, kind of bobbing his head.
Yeah.
And he was standing there for a long time.
Yeah.
And he didn't have any friends with him. Like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
And then he came up and said, I'm Charlie Peacock. This is Charlie Peacock. And Charlie Peacock was a fixture in Sacramento at that
Absolutely.
point. It was like, wow. Because that's like a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
And he liked our energy, he liked our enthusiasm. He said, I want to get you off the carousel playing clubs because you're young and there's no point in doing that, and get you on the next thing.
Yeah.
No, he was a great guy.
Yeah.
Does that sound right to you? Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You might be.
He was
thinking
either
of-
going to help us or hurt us. I don't know. Standing next to the stage.
Yeah.
So did you guys play Beaverbrooks a few times?
Oh, God.
Oh,
I couldn't tell you how many times.
That was one of my favorite places to play. It really was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That and like you said, Club Cantel. That was a great place.
Beaverbrooks was amazing.
Isn't
Yeah.
that guy's name Kevin? That was like he booked the bands and stuff?
No, Sunny actually booked a lot of the bands there.
Sonny booked Fonzie's.
No, she booked the Beaverbrooks. Sunny
Yeah,
Productions,
she booked-
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
remember a guy
I-
named Kevin there.
because I
don't
also
remember
helped
Kevin,
helped
but-
Sonny do for like X came into town and Plimsolls and a bunch of other big acts that would go through Beaverbrooks, and Sonny would ask
they had
Brett and I if we
they had
wanted
some
to help
big
out with security, and so we would hang out anyway. So yes, it was Sonny for most of them. She didn't do all of them. In the beginning, I believe that the owner Dave Perigary was booking direct very early days. Randy, I'm sorry, Randy Perigary. Sorry, but yeah, and then we Beaverbrooks was
Randy was a doctor, wasn't he?
Yeah, Dr. Flores was who owned it in the beginning.
Yeah.
Then who was
maybe it was Dr. Flores who would book it. Originally, yeah, I forget. There was so many different people, but at the end it was pretty much Sunny because she would have a calendar and we would play like middle of the month previous, and she would pull the calendar out. So what days do you want? And we'd hit any open one. All the open ones, we'll take them. And so we played there all the time. It ends up that I think that we opened for the features, I don't know, it had to be close to 100 times. I mean, we were like always the opener for the features. It seemed anyway.
Always a bridesmaid. Never
Always.
bride.
Well, yeah. We were young.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about and this could get crazy. So the craziest story that the Antics ever participated in.
The crazy story.
Well, we have a bunch.
Um,
I'll go with one. I won't go through all the gory details, but I'll make it kind of short and sweet. So we played at Freeborn Hall at the UC Davis, and it was actually a good show. I mean,
What hall is this?
Freeborn Hall. It's
no. We played at the dorms. We played at a dorm party.
It wasn't a dorm party.
Yeah.
No, it was on campus.
Yeah. The dorms are on.
Do you remember?
Whatever.
Do you remember, Todd?
No, I heard nothing.
Anyway,
I thought it was a dorm.
it wasn't Freeborn
This is-
Hall.
but
It
anyway.
was
Well, it
Freeborn
wasn't
Hall.
inside. It was a hall. It wasn't inside of a dorm house.
No, it was like in the where they ate.
It was
the-
such a crazy story, they forgot it already.
Yeah, we're not getting off on a good.
All right,
start.
well,
And so the guy that set up that show, he comes to us and says, "Look, I live in Southern California." This guy comes up to us and says, "Will you play the show?" So we played the show, and it was a success. And then he says, "I want to do this for my hometown down in Southern California." It was a little town right above San Diego called Fallbrook, and we said, "Sure, we'll do it." And next thing you know, we're renting a van and piled all of our gear in the back of the van, and I drove my car. We were all just crammed in this car with a road crew together. So we stayed at this guy's parents' house. He opens up the door, and I don't even know if he warned them. Next thing you know, there's like 10 guys after an 8-hour road trip piling in late in the evening into their front room, and we all crashed there. And I remember the two daughters that were teenage girls came in later that night, and they opened up the door, and what did they say?
What's that smell?
So I think we may have hooked up with the two daughters and over the course of this event. And before we left, and then the same guy that brought us down there, he had brings over a stack about as tall as we are of beer, cases of beer, and I'm pretty sure all of those were consumed over the course of a couple days. We ended up doing a great radio show. We played the show, and it was fine. And then when we were packing up to leave, our bass player Steve, he says, "Hey, I like your dog. Can I have it?" And the mom and Papa-san, we were calling him. He goes, yeah, okay. So we show up these people's house. We stink it up. Take advantage of the daughters, and we leave with their dog. So that's one crazy story.
So introduce yourself.
I'm Todd Dangerfield, roadie extraordinaire, groupie.
Not many groups have roadies. I know that, right?
We had 3,
So,
I was highly paid to,
almost as much as us.
in beer.
so tell me your best roadie story.
Oh, I think as soon as you started talking about Lord Beaverbrooks,
Yeah.
I mean, playing or you guys opening for the Untouchables and how friendly they were, how obviously they were so kind to the Antics, but partying in the green room backstage with the Untouchables, that was just amazing. My jaw was dropped the whole time, and just how friendly they were. It was just so awesome to be part of that, and then playing the high school shows. So playing like Loretto, St. Francis shows, things
Jesuit.
like that. And that was like screaming girls, and it was an unbelievable scene that was happening. So I mean, being a part of all that, the energy of all of it, and just being able to tag along, and ride the coattails was so much fun.
Yeah.
And I even have, it's like we all made mixtapes during that time, right?
and I took one of my most valuable mixtapes, and you know when you press the tabs in and you wouldn't
Yeah, so
need on
permanent, yeah.
Well, I didn't do that on one of them, but I actually had a live version of the show at Beaverbrooks, and
Really?
we were talking about like one song is preserved from It's Socially Unacceptable, and it's live at Beaverbrooks. And I'm like, wow,
That's cool.
isn't that worth something?
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
Yeah.
to us, it is.
Yeah.
Do you have, Ron, you were saying that you guys were in a battle of the bands.
Yeah, one of our first gigs that we ever did, we filled out the paperwork and submitted it to a place called the Rock Factory. It used to be in Fair Oaks, Fair Oaks Boulevard, I believe.
Yeah.
And
It's now a dress place. I actually visited it.
well, it's fitting.
Oh, I
That's
thought it was a
fitting.
thrift store.
So we show up and we're this kind of punk new wave band at the time. At least we thought we were, and it's a whole bunch of hard rockers. I mean, these guys are definitely in a whole different league than we were. We thought we were going to get either beat up or booed off the stage either way. We ended up playing with a lot of bands, and one of them happened to be a band called City Kid, who later turned into Tesla. And they ended up getting third place. And the Antics,
Who got second?
we did.
We did. So we got
So we
that
beat,
going for us.
that's our claim to fame. We beat out Tesla, albeit they were called City Kid at the time.
But we love Tesla. We're not.
Absolutely.
We're big fans.
I can only speak for myself. So when the band we decided to break up, and Pat was going off to college, and he was playing in another band at the time, and we all just kind of had run its course. Or Steve and I would pretty much hang out at our rehearsal studio, still, kind of sulking that the band wasn't around anymore, and we'd hang out at Club Cantel, which was just a couple blocks away from where our studio was. And so the good news, in a full circle, and another thank you to Bo and Carol for Club Cantel. Well, because I was hanging out there, and half the time with you as well, I met a girl wearing a polka dot dress on the other side of the Horseshoe Bar that used to be there, and I was with Steve that night, and this girl looks back at me and gives a smile, and he like nudges me and says, "It looks like you're set for the night." And Steve would, "What do I got?"
like something you would say.
And that girl happened to be my wife. We never looked back. She broke up with her boyfriend there because I sent a beer over to her. And by the time I made it around the Horseshoe Bar for her to thank me, her boyfriend walked up with the beer in hand because nobody could get served back then. It was too crowded. And he looks at me and looks at her, and he hands me the beer and says, "You're going to need it." And that's when I ended up with Valerie, and again we haven't looked back, but we then built a life together. So my time from the band really ended, and the dating scene, everything ended at that moment. And again, it's now we've been married over 34 years, but we've been together for 37 years, and so yeah, that energy stayed and is there still.
But when these guys brought me into playing the band, I was saying this earlier, December 10th, 1982, the English Beat came and played at Galactic 2000.
Yeah, that was-
and so we thought, okay, we'll go see the show. And to me, it was like this whole world opened up because there was people were smoking cloves. I never smelled it before. Everybody's wearing this totally different look. The makeup was different. The clothes were different. The music was different. The bass player was playing a pinball machine. I walked up to him. I said something. He's got this English accent. Like, it's just a whole brand new thing. It was so exciting. I mean, it was just new. And we were saying earlier, I feel so lucky to have come of age in that era. It was an exciting time. So then our band's progressing, and I always liked writing songs. And I remember we would with Wild.
Yeah.
It was based on this kind of keyboard riff thing, I remember specifically we kind of threw it together pretty quick, but it had a good hook. The next, like a night or two later, we played it in a club, and this is the truth. That people just say this, but I mean it. We played it, and the kids just flooded
Jumped
the
out.
dance floor.
Yeah.
And that was such a cool feeling to be at home writing something, and then to be playing a club enough that it invigorates people to want to dance. So for me, then we had the whole Antics experience and all that, but I really fell in love with writing music, so I ended up moving to LA, and I wrote a lot of music for theme parks and documentaries and stuff, and I still play today. I'm still a working musician, That all wouldn't have happened. I mean, my life I have is based in music. It wouldn't happen if these guys hadn't drugged me into play with the Antics, because I didn't want to do it. I was shy and I was.
The little Casio.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm serious. I'd probably be doing something totally different. I'd probably be an accountant or something. Who knows? But I mean, it's just that invigorated for me the excitement of writing music and how cool that is to write something and bam, to feel it live in a club. That's just very, very exciting. And that specific scene in Sacramento was, I think, a special time.
Yeah, it was right for that to happen.
It was just incredible. So.
Yeah, so I mean, that era was just a really, really special time. It just happened to coincide with me about to graduate from high school, and it was like the perfect combination, you know. And like, you always remember your first, and this was my first band, and you know, we put in a lot of hard work, and we did, you know, and we got good. We actually did, and it was so exciting and so much fun to be a part of that scene and everything. It was very fleeting. It didn't, you know, it only lasted a couple of years, I think, and then things started to change. But my love of music has continued on. I've been playing in bands ever since, and took a little time off when we had kids, but I mean, to this day I still play in a band, and I owe it all to this first experience that we all had together. It was magical. It's something you'll never feel again, you know. It's only once in your lifetime that you feel that way. Now I'm like, oh, my back hurts.
Well, bring it full circle. He plays in a band still, but he also plays with his son.
Oh yeah, and yeah, exactly. My son, who's 25, basically taught himself guitar just listening to me play in the background. I wish I could take credit for it, but he's amazing, and I don't know why, but he's in a band with a bunch of, like, you know, almost 60-year-olds. And he seems to enjoy it for some reason, but yeah, so I'm very proud of that. Both of my kids, you know, are into music, and so I feel like maybe I gave them that.
You guys said you haven't seen each other for a while. So
Yeah.
No.
Can you talk about that just a little bit, and how the music scene, you know, and this whole thing kind of brought you back together again and resparked those friendships?
So I can start with that. I'm so happy that we're doing this. You know, sometimes life gets in the way and you don't realize how fast time goes by, but we should have done this much, much sooner. And I regret that, but we're still healthy, and we have plenty of time to, you know, to reminisce and share stories about the past.
We getting the band back together?
I don't know about that.
Dad still have the speakers?
Yeah. We always laughed. It's an ongoing joke. Our band, when Brent left the band, then we had Mark. And Mark was playing in many other bands, and so he wasn't reliable, and, you know, couldn't be at every gig. So then we got Mike. Mike was a great drummer, but that was kind of fleeting. We were like Spinal Tap, you know, a Sacramento version, and we couldn't keep the drummer.
They just went poof.
And they
Just a globule.
always happened. And we ended up playing, I mean, mini shows
We
where
played with a tape.
it was a TI. We put glasses on it and set it up on the drum stand on a stool, and Steve would go over before every song. Steve would go over and hit play, and then the other piece, and Todd might remember this. We would start our set with a song called "Elevator."
I remember that.
And it was like elevator music.
No.
Elevator music.
It was
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah.
something to be heard piped into an elevator.
It was like,
And these guys would just be up there, and I'd still be back in the green room. And they would carry me on stage. I'd have Todd would put the mic in my hand. I'd, like, you know, stiff as a board. They would lift me up above their heads. It was Todd and Ryan and Dave, and they would carry me out through the crowd, from the back all the way through the crowd, drop me on stage, then put the mic in, and then I'd 1, 2, 3, 4, and we kick into whatever the song was, and we did that for gosh, this is a year or two. But that was just to fill in the first 10 minutes of music.
So obviously, the name Antics was very much who you guys were.
Yeah,
Who
and
came up with that name?
Bo Richards.
Bo
no,
Richards?
Bo Richards did not come up with the name. He anointed it. He's
Oh.
the reason why we had
Oh,
to.
okay.
So we had early days. We had a song or a show. It was a big one. It was two of them. And
The Call?
Yeah, the call and it was for the call was coming up, and Bo asked us if we would open up for the call. That was
And the walls came.
Walls
Yeah,
Came Down.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have that album actually.
Great song. So we were, cloud nine. Yeah, we're gonna open up for a great band.
We're still in high school at that point.
Yeah, we were.
Still?
Bo
I
comes.
was, for
Bo,
sure.
Bo shows up at another one of our gigs, and he says, "Yeah, you guys can play the song, or you can play the show,
Here's
but
all
you
these
you have to change your name. I'm not going to put you on the bill if with that name." And we're like, "Oh, okay." So we go back and we're brainstorming. John had a great name.
The Roids.
The Roids. So, we could have been the Roids, which really would have gone well for
Ah,
the
yeah,
thesis.
It was cool. That's the thing.
But we came up with the Antics, almost like a throwing a dart at a dictionary kind of a situation. But we came up with the Antics, liked it, and so we John reminded me of this tonight that Bo shows up at one of our shows. Do you have a name?
We turned around he had the mic, he looks at us and goes, "What's your name?" Because we were the Plague, and he said, "You can't be the Plague because there's already a Plague, although it's spelled differently."
Yeah.
But he's like, "You can't do that." And so he's on the mic, "What's your name?" He looked like don't fuck around
Yeah,
with me.
yeah.
And you said
the
the Antics.
Antics. And
Now,
we were,
had we gone with the Roids, things could have gone totally different. We'd be famous now.
I think it'd go on a crapper.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that wouldn't help.
I think it changed everything.
The Roy.
So that's
having a flare up. That could be our first down.
that's how we went from the Plague to the Antics.
Yeah.
I like it.
And thank you again, Bo Richards.
And he was probably right.
Oh yeah.
Plague wasn't a great name.
No, it wasn't.
Great name.
Nobody understood.
Not as good as the Roids, but
Not as good as the Roids.
Very cool. All right, so going back to the whole staying friends and reuniting thing, Ron, tell me what that means to you.
Kurt, you and I had a conversation when you first started this project. It was the greatest time of my life. I mean, it just really was. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know how we were doing it, but it was exciting. It was new every day. There was always something happening. We worked our backsides off, and I don't know of any other time in my life where I just worked because I wanted to be doing it, and that was just so special. And losing that was really like losing a piece of your family, and coming back and seeing these guys when you brought the idea up, and we had Harry Price actually tried to have a couple reunion shows over the years, and we were almost on, and then for whatever reason a couple guys couldn't do it, and then we tried another one, and I was in Europe, and so it never happened. But every time that a project comes up from those days, man, my heart starts to jump. I start talking to everybody about it. Valerie, my wife, can't stand it because I won't shut up about it. My kids are involved too, and it was such a good time. They could see the energy and the passion in my voice when I talk about it. It was just fun, and no other way to describe it. It was magic, and having these guys sitting on the couch with me is there's nothing better. There really is, and I wish all of us could be here, including all the drummers.
you need a lot of
Those that are
we'd
alive,
have to
so-
go, get out the bigger couch, but
And then have the tape machine.
yeah, the tape machine would definitely be at the end.
Tape machine at the end.
And our friend Tiak. But I can't. I'm very much looking forward to continuing conversations with these guys and rekindling those friendships. And thank you for putting this together and bringing us back together. Good memories, and I'm sure we'll keep sharing them long after this interview stops.
Absolutely, yeah. John, what about you?
Well, it's funny. It's one of those things. There's that John Lennon line about life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans, right? So when this was all happening in the early 80s, I just, it was so exciting, and I just really wanted this to go and wanted to keep growing, and we grew a lot, and a lot of great things happened, but I was so focused on where's this going to go? I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, when we do a gig, I'd just be panicked, like, oh, there's not enough people here. You know, every single gig was a barometer about how is this working out, right?
Yeah.
And then you know, life goes on, and you look back and think, wow, man, why didn't I just cherish that experience for what it was? Because it was a great, phenomenal time in life. It really, really was. And of course, we had great times, but you realize that was the thing. It didn't have to go on to be whatever. That was the thing. That was the gig. That was a huge, like Ron said, both guys said, that was a big, big, big part of our lives.
Yeah.
Really, really exciting. I mean, I just personally, I grew. So I was this closeted, really shy guy, and he knows it. Both these guys know this. And we had a song called "Johnny Needs a Girl." I was remember that, Todd?
Yes.
Yeah. And Charlie really liked that song because it was all about me. You never had a girlfriend or anything, and being in the band just was a hugely formative experience for me. And so yeah, now coming back to, I mean, I haven't seen Pat. I think it's
35
years.
probably.
And so now we're right back in it again, reliving all this stuff, and it's phenomenal you're doing this. I'm assuming other bands are having similar experiences. So
absolutely.
hats off to you, and thank you.
Yeah, and I thank you guys so much for being participants to this. So.
And thank you so
Thanks for
much.
having us.
Thanks for having us, because it really means a lot. And it's reuniting us, which should have happened a long time ago.
And it feels so good.
You've seen how many laughs we've shared just in a couple hours. We could go on all night.
Hi, we're the
Antics.
Antics, the Sacramento music scene.
No, sorry.
We were there.
That was good.
As far as we can remember.
Where were you?
Where were you? Wait, where were you?
I was.
You were there. No, I was. Yeah,
You were there.
I was.